It's Laura Coleman Waite here on one of my most favorite places on the planet, a soccer field, with my super happy dog. So it's come to my attention that in a lot of situations there is a muscle in your hip that is starting to interfere with our favorite glute max, and that is the glute medius. And I'll show you the anatomy of it in just a second, but I wanted to show you two of my favorite exercises and how to sort of pattern that glute medius out of the exercise. So I want you to take your thumbs and I want you to dig them in. So if this is your waist, I want you to dig in just below your waist on both sides, just below the hip bone, the crest of the ilium, the hip bone. And as you walk sideways, I want you to see if the muscle really tightens up just below the crest of the ilium, because that's the glute medius, or if there's more glute max down here that's working. Now, if that glute medius, as you walk sideways and drive through your heel and feel that calf hamstring glute, just like you always do when you warm up before you do something crazy like play soccer this morning, if that glute medius is firing, I want you to really dig your thumbs into the muscle and see if you can pattern it out of the movement. That goes not only for this walking sideways, which is one of my most favorite ways to get my glutes working, but also for my Brazilian soccer drill favorite, Brazilian hamstrings. So remember, this is where you kneel down and you put the soccer ball, or it's really better if you put a post behind you, and as you fall forward, what I've noticed is that I can feel if all my hamstrings are firing, and I can also feel if my glute medius is firing more than my glute max. So again, I take my thumbs and I find that hip bone and I dig in just south of that hip bone, so that when I fall forward, if I feel my glute medius firing and it's not letting my glute max fire as much as possible, then I can fix that. So patterning out a muscle that's getting in the way is your quick fitness tip for today. So you can pattern out that glute medius as you walk sideways, and you can pattern out that glute medius as you do your Brazilian hamstrings. The other usual suspect in Brazilian hamstrings is the adductors, the muscles on the inside of the thigh. So if as you're doing your Brazilian hamstrings, you fall forward and you feel more of the inside of your thigh contract than your glute, then there's those adductors getting in the way again. My gravy. They're so powerful. There's 5 of them, and there's one glute medius. They're all internal rotators. There's Nova. The internal rotators of the femur, and the poor glute max is one of the only external rotators. So it's a 6 muscles against 1. Numbers down. We all know in soccer that's not a good situation. Certainly with muscles, not a good situation. So that's why you gotta fight like mad to get that glute max to work. It's battling the internal rotation of the glute medius and the internal rotation and power of 5 adductors on the inside of the thigh. Okay, it's Laura Coleman Waite with Just Muscles here on my favorite soccer field. I am wearing my I Can't Breathe t-shirt because here at Just Muscles, which is me, I am doing all I can to learn about systemic racism, and I highly recommend a TED Talk that was recently put out on the TED podcast by Jennifer Eberhard on racism and racial bias and how to disrupt it, more importantly, how to disrupt it. So she talks about how the brain tries to organize things and find patterns, and that is how bias in everything is developed, but how to disrupt it is more important. She has a really interesting story about how she worked with the Oakland Police Department and how many times they pulled over people in 2017, and then when she gave them something to think about before they were going to pull over someone, how that number nearly halved, and then how she worked with the Nextdoor app to interrupt racial profiling on the Nextdoor app. It is fascinating. Here at Just Muscles, me, are learning everything we can about systemic racism. It is not lost on me that I am able to come here and my family doesn't worry about me coming home. So, peace, blessings, Black Lives Matter. Take good care, learn all you can, because education seems to me to be the biggest fix that we can do here. Okay, here's to balance, strength, and happiness, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, let's get to know the muscles. I promised I'd show you the anatomy. So this is Complete Anatomy 2020. Love this app. It is so fantastic. So I'm going to turn on the layers of muscles here. And hopefully they'll turn on. Whoops. Okay, so here is an adductor. This is the adductor brevis. Here's another adductor, the obturator externus. And we will add another layer. There is the adductor longus. There is the pectineus. And here starts some quads. So now we're going to look on the inside here, and we're going to take a look at this little adductor muscle, which is, oh my goodness, a gigantic one. The adductor magnus. Look how big that turkey is. It's huge, huge. And when you look at it with the anatomy app, when the hamstrings start covering up, so the hamstrings start covering it up, and that's really all you can see is that portion of it. But underneath those hamstrings is this gigantic adductor magnus. So then let's look up at the hip. So we've got the glute minimus right there. That's the glute minimus. And then the glute medius that I'm talking about that sometimes can take over for that glute max is right there. And then you can see when it's layered on with the glute max. So there's the glute medius. So you want to, when you're walking sideways, slide your fingers into this little section and push down to try and pattern out any help that glute medius might be doing when you're doing your Brazilians or when you're doing your walking sideways, because you want this big monster, the glute max, to be doing that work. You want to give it a chance to work. And if it's being dominated by the medius or by all of those adductors on the inside of the thigh, then that can become problematic. Okay, there's your anatomy lesson. Good luck walking sideways and doing your Brazilian hamstrings, because those are two super powerful muscles and exercises to use. So don't discount them, but you might need to, again, dig your thumb in just below the crest of the hip there. Nope, that's not it. That little crest of the hip to dig into that medius. Okay, take good care. Balance, strength, and happiness. It's always there for you.